Okay. Sorry, going in the purple?
Thank you. I was very reassured to hear that the fisheries crisis is relatively easy to solve. That's good to know. And the three things that you mentioned are, of course, very important parts of that solution. But I was just wondering if there's maybe more that needs to be done. I mean, you mentioned the importance of the consumer and the market. That might work in Europe and maybe the US and a few other markets, but there are many markets around the world where that probably won't work quite yet. You mentioned quota capacity reductions, which again is an important part of management. There's much more to management though. There's massive illegal fishing around the world. There are huge vested interests behind subsidies and behind the quotas. So given that this is such a global problem where you have so many dimensions around the world, what are some of the global solutions that we need to address the problem?
Well, stop subsidizing our fleets to go and fish in their waters. I mean, I think you'll find it, you know, you may say that there's nothing you can do about somewhere far off and a long way away, but I think you'll generally find that there is a European tuna purse seiner operating within their waters, having paid a nominal sum relative to the amount of damage they're doing to fish there. I think there was an enormous study by the World Bank which said that the kind of lost revenues of this kind was something like 50 billion. I mean, I was in Geneva last week, and there does seem to be the makings of a half-good deal to outlaw fisheries subsidies were we ever to get round to having a WTO round that concluded that if the Doha round actually did something, there would be a fisheries element in that, which would be quite good.
Yeah, to my mind, we've got a couple of things. So there's the Convention on Biological Diversity, established in 1992, and all countries of the world, with the exception of 7, including Iraq and the US, are parties to that convention. Next year is...
Sorry.
Next year, there's a deadline, or next year there's a target to reduce the rate of loss of biodiversity. Quite possibly, that will focus the attention of the world on the degree to which that has or has not happened, particularly within the marine context. But a second target was also established for 2015. And that 2015 target is to have all fisheries fished at a sustainable level by the year 2015. Almost certainly that won't happen. But I often think, why not set 2015 or as perhaps a target year, or at least an incentive to move towards some sort of Kyoto form of international protocol for the health of our oceans in general. I mean,
if it doesn't happen, nail them and say, well, we've got to have something else.
That's right. I guess what I'm thinking of is some sort of set of international negotiations that establishes rules in the high seas, because we can't control the high seas right now. All we can do as individual countries is control things out to the extent of the 200 nautical mile limit. But beyond that, of course, we can't do anything.
Under whose auspices could this come?
Well, that would be under some sort of an international treaty or a UN agreed upon treaty.
So you're proposing a whole new treaty?
I would propose something akin to a Kyoto Protocol. It's something that then gets in the public eye, people start thinking about it, governments start talking about it, and actually I think it's something that if governments wanted to act upon, they actually could act upon with greater force and greater...
How many governments do you think at this moment would actually sign up to that?
I think many of them, I think a
Really?
number of them would.
Yeah.
The United States already has this legislation, and as the way these things tend to work, if the US and a couple of others get on board, then others will follow. But that could also deal with some of the subsidy issues you talk about, some of the facts that were raised in the film of where some nations pay poor nations, here, we'll give you a load of money if you allow us to fish in your waters. One would think that such an international treaty, or call it what you will, would deal again with that type of thing.